Remove it from my seat.
You do not deserve to sit in this seat.
The stories shared on this channel are fictional and created solely for entertainment. Any similarity to real events, individuals, or locations is entirely coincidental.
Welcome to Seat of Power. If you enjoy the content, please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below.
She didn't ask him to move. She decided he didn't belong. And in that quiet, air-conditioned first-class cabin at JFK, Terminal 4, one decision, small, careless, soaked in entitlement, was about to cost hundreds of people their night, a corporation its stability, and a woman everything she thought she owned. The cabin smelled like leather, citrus cleaner, and money. Melissa Carter sat in seat 1B like she had always belonged there. Cream-colored suit, tailored just tight enough to remind everyone she still fit into a life built on appearances. Her heels were off, tucked beneath the seat. Her legs stretched out, relaxed, territorial. But the real statement wasn't her posture. It was the bag. A bright orange Hermes Birkin, placed deliberately, centered, perfectly positioned across seat 1A, like a velvet rope at an exclusive club. Reserved. Not by the airline. By her. She didn't look up when the man stopped in the aisle. Daniel Reed stood still for half a second. Not confused, not hesitant, just still. Tall, broad shoulders. Charcoal suit that didn't scream wealth, but carried it quietly, like gravity. His hand rested lightly on the overhead bin. His eyes moved once, seat number, bag, then her. He exhaled slowly. The kind of breath that comes from someone used to controlling rooms without raising their voice. "Excuse me," he said. Deep, even, controlled. Melissa didn't move. Her thumb slid across her phone screen. Scrolling, her lips pressed together slightly, irritated not by him, but by the interruption of her own moment. He waited. 2 seconds. 3. The hum of the aircraft filled the space between them. Somewhere behind row 3, a seatbelt clicked. A glass clinked against a tray. Then silence again. "Ma'am?" Daniel said, a little firmer now. "That's my seat." That made her pause. Not because of what he said. Because of how he said it. She sighed. Loud enough to be heard. Slow enough to be deliberate. Then she looked up. Her eyes traveled from his shoes first. Polished, not flashy. Then the suit. Then the face. Something in her expression shifted. Not curiosity. Assessment. Dismissal. "What?" she snapped, her voice sharp, cutting through the cabin like a blade against glass. "I'm trying to finish something. Can this wait?" Daniel didn't react to the tone. Didn't flinch. Didn't lean back. He simply pointed. One controlled movement. "The seat," he said. "You're using it." Melissa followed his gesture like she had forgotten the bag existed. Her eyes landed on the Birkin, then back to him. A short laugh escaped her. Dry, disbelieving. "This bag," she said, tapping it lightly with 2 fingers, "cost more than most people's cars." She leaned back slightly, reclaiming her posture. "I'm not putting it on the floor." There it was. Not just refusal. A statement. A hierarchy. Daniel's jaw tightened. Barely. the kind of movement most people wouldn't notice. But the couple in row 2 did. The man across the aisle did. They felt it. The shift. "I understand that," Daniel said, voice steady but colder now. "But I paid for seat 1A. Your bag didn't." A pause. The cabin leaned in without moving. Melissa's eyes narrowed. Then she smiled. Not warm, not polite. Something else. Something practiced. "Well," she said, tilting her head slightly, "there are plenty of seats in the back." She let that hang, then added, softer, sharper, "Maybe you'd be more comfortable there." The words landed heavier than they sounded. Daniel blinked once, not in confusion, in recognition. He had heard that tone before. Boardrooms, airports, restaurants where the check never came to him first. Different places, same message. "You don't belong." His voice, when it came, was quieter, but it carried more weight. "I'm not sitting in the back," he said. "I'm sitting right here." He stepped forward. 1 inch closer. "Move the bag." Melissa sat up straighter. Now it was personal. Her fingers curled around the armrest. Her posture sharpened. Her eyes hardened into something defensive, territorial. "You don't touch my property," she snapped. "That's assault." The word echoed louder than it should have. A man in row 3 lowered his newspaper. The couple in row 2 exchanged a look. A phone appeared, then another. Daniel didn't raise his voice, didn't match her energy. "Moving a bag," he said evenly, "is not assault." He glanced around once, not nervously, calculating. The cabin was watching now. Every eye, every breath. Melissa felt it too, and instead of shrinking, she expanded into it. "This man is harassing me," she said suddenly, louder now, projecting her voice toward the aisle. "He's threatening me over my belongings." The word threatening lingered, heavy, intentional. A flight attendant turned. Mark Lewis, mid-30s, tired eyes, professional smile that had seen too many versions of this moment. He walked over quickly. "What seems to be the issue?" he asked, though his eyes had already found the bag on seat 1A. Melissa turned to him immediately, relief flashing across her face, not because she felt safe, but because she felt supported. "This man," she said, pointing without looking at Daniel, "is trying to intimidate me. I want him removed." Removed. The word changed the air. Mark's smile faltered for half a second. He looked at Daniel, then at the seat, then at the bag, then back at Melissa. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "seat 1A is assigned to." "I know what seat it is," she cut in, sharper now. "Do you know who I am?" There it was. Not a question, a weapon. The cabin went still. Mark hesitated, just long enough to confirm what everyone already knew. This wasn't about a seat anymore. This was about power. And in Melissa Carter's world, power didn't come from truth. It came from who you thought you were. Daniel stood there, silent now, still, watching, not reacting. Because somewhere behind his calm, behind the control, behind the restraint, something had already shifted. And no one in that cabin, not Melissa, not Mark, not the quiet witnesses recording from row 2, had any idea who they had just decided to stand against. Mark Lewis swallowed once, the motion small but visible in the tight muscles of his throat. He had seen difficult passengers before, loud ones, drunk ones, entitled ones. But this felt different. The air had weight now, like pressure building inside a sealed cabin. "Ma'am," he tried again, softer this time, choosing each word carefully. "That seat is assigned to Mr. Reed." Melissa didn't even look at him. Her gaze stayed locked forward, chin slightly raised, lips pressed into a thin line that suggested she had already decided how this would end. "I don't care what the system says," she replied, voice low, controlled, but edged with something volatile. "I paid full fare. I deserve comfort. I am not putting that bag on the floor like some carry-on from economy." The word economy landed like a stain. Daniel felt it. Not just the insult, the intention. Behind him, a woman shifted in her seat. A man leaned closer to the aisle, pretending to adjust his jacket while angling his phone just enough to capture everything. Mark glanced at Daniel, searching for something. Patience, cooperation, an easy way out. Daniel gave him nothing. Not hostility, not agreement, just stillness. "I don't want a scene," Daniel said quietly, eyes steady on Mark, not Melissa. "I want my seat." Simple, reasonable, unavoidable. Mark nodded, relief flickering for half a second. "Of course, sir. And you'll have it. Ma'am, I need you to move your bag to the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of you." Melissa turned her head slowly this time, deliberately. Her eyes locked onto Mark with something colder now, less performative, more dangerous. "Excuse me. I'm asking you to comply with federal regulations," Mark said, his tone firming just enough to show he wasn't backing down. "You cannot block another passenger's assigned seat." There was a beat. Then Melissa laughed. Not loud, not dramatic, just sharp. "Do you know who my husband is?" she asked. Mark didn't answer. Didn't need to. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice, but not enough. "Robert Carter," she said, "Senior Vice President at Holston Energy. We fly with this airline every month. I am a platinum member." There it was again. Status. As if it rewrote rules. As if it erased the man standing in front of her. Mark exhaled slowly. "I appreciate that, ma'am. But Mr. Reed also holds a valid first-class ticket. The policy applies to everyone." Melissa's eyes flicked toward Daniel again. Slower this time, more deliberate. She studied him. Really studied him. And something about what she saw, something she couldn't quite define, only irritated her more. Because it didn't match the narrative she had already built. He wasn't apologizing. He wasn't backing down. He wasn't playing his role. Her voice rose. "So you're taking his side," she snapped. "I'm following policy," Mark replied. "No," she said, louder now, her composure cracking at the edges. "You're making a mistake." The cabin tightened. Daniel could feel it. Every pair of eyes, every held breath. Melissa crossed her arms and leaned back into her seat again, settling in like she had no intention of moving. "No," she said flatly. Mark blinked. "I'm sorry." "I said no," she repeated, louder, each word pressed harder than the last. "I am not moving that bag. If he wants a seat, he can find another one. I'm not inconveniencing myself for him." Silence. Not the soft kind. The kind that hums. The kind that warns. Daniel's jaw tightened again. This time, it stayed that way. Behind him, a man muttered under his breath, "Unbelievable." Another voice whispered, "She can't be serious." Phones were no longer subtle. They were out. Held up. Recording. Mark reached for the small headset at his collar, fingers slightly unsteady now. "Captain," he said under his breath, trying to keep his voice low. "We have a situation in first class." Passenger refusing to comply with crew instructions. Melissa heard it, and she smiled, a small, satisfied curve of her lips. She thought she had won. She thought the next step was obvious. Security. Removal. But not hers. Daniel watched her. Really watched her now. Not with anger, not with frustration, with something else. Recognition. The kind that comes when a pattern completes itself. He had seen this before. Not the exact situation, but the structure, the assumption, the quiet, unshakable belief that power was something you displayed, not something you carried. He reached into his jacket slowly. Melissa flinched, just slightly. Her body reacted before her mind caught up. Daniel noticed. Everyone did. He pulled out his boarding pass, held it between two fingers. Steady. Visible. "Full fare," he said softly. "Purchased 3 weeks ago. Corporate account." Melissa scoffed immediately. Too fast. "That doesn't mean anything." "People upgrade all the time. You could be standby." You could be, she stopped herself. But the damage was already done. The implication hung in the air. Clear. Ugly. Unmistakable. Daniel didn't respond. Didn't need to. The cabin had already heard it. Behind them, the line of passengers boarding had stalled completely now, bodies pressed into the galley, necks craning to see. A flight attendant in the back whispered something into her radio. The atmosphere shifted again. Not louder. Heavier. Then the cockpit door opened. A sharp click. Heads turned. Captain Andrew Collins stepped out, his presence immediate, commanding without effort. Silver hair, straight posture, eyes that had seen storms most people wouldn't survive. He adjusted his jacket once as he stepped into the aisle. "What's going on here?" His voice cut through the cabin, deep and controlled. Melissa turned instantly. Her entire demeanor changed in a single breath. Her shoulders softened. Her expression twisted into something fragile, almost delicate. "Captain," she said, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. "Thank goodness you're here. This man is harassing me. I'm just trying to sit quietly, and they're making a scene over my bag." The performance was flawless. If you hadn't been watching from the beginning. Captain Collins didn't respond immediately. His eyes moved from Melissa to the bag, to the empty seat, then to Daniel. "Sir," he said, calm but direct, "is this your assigned seat?" "It is," Daniel replied. No hesitation, no emotion, just fact. The captain nodded once, then turned back to Melissa. "Ma'am," he said, voice flattening slightly. "On my aircraft, passengers sit in seats. Luggage goes in the bin. You need to move that bag. Now." The word now didn't echo. It landed. Melissa's face changed. The softness vanished, replaced instantly by something raw. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice rising again, the edge returning, sharper now. "You're going to side with him? Over me?" "I'm siding with policy," the captain said. "I am a platinum member," she snapped. "And he is a ticketed passenger," Collins replied without missing a beat. The standoff locked into place, tight, unyielding. Melissa grabbed the bag suddenly. For a moment it looked like she might comply. But then she threw it. Not into the bin. Not under the seat. Into the aisle. The leather hit the floor with a heavy thud. "There," she shouted. "Are you happy now? My $4,000 bag is on the dirty floor. I hope you're satisfied." The cabin flinched. The volume, the violence of it. It wasn't about the bag anymore. It hadn't been for a while. Daniel looked at the bag, then at the captain, then back at Melissa. And in that moment, something inside the situation snapped. Not visibly, not audibly, but completely. Because compliance wasn't the issue anymore. Control was gone. And what replaced it was consequence. The sound of the bag hitting the floor didn't fade. It echoed, not in the cabin, but in the people watching. A line had been crossed, and everyone felt it. Captain Collins didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His eyes hardened, the kind of shift only seasoned pilots carried the moment they stopped negotiating and started deciding. "Ma'am," he said, slower now, each word measured. "That behavior is not acceptable." Melissa laughed again, louder this time, brittle, unstable. "Oh, now it's my behavior, not his harassment, not your crew embarrassing me in front of everyone." Her hand shot out, finger pointing straight at Daniel, trembling with a mix of anger and something else, something closer to panic. "He started this," she said. "He could have just sat somewhere else. There are empty seats. Why is this even a problem?" Because he didn't move. Because he didn't apologize. Because he didn't confirm the story she had already written. Daniel stood exactly where he had been, shoulders square, breathing even. But his eyes had changed. There was no patience left in them now, only clarity. "This is my seat," he said again. Not louder, not harsher, just final. A murmur rippled through the cabin. Small, quick, then gone. Captain Collins turned slightly toward the galley wall and picked up the interphone. The movement was calm, almost routine, but everyone watching understood what it meant. "Gate, this is Captain Collins," he said into the receiver. "Requesting law enforcement at the aircraft. We have a disruptive passenger to deny boarding." The words hit Melissa like a physical force. Her mouth opened, then closed. "What?" she said, the word barely forming. "It's not about the bag anymore," the captain replied, turning back to her. "It's about safety. You are no longer cleared to fly on this aircraft." The air shifted again. Not tension this time. Shock. Melissa said immediately, shaking her head, her voice rising, faster now, less controlled. "No, you can't do that. I moved the bag. You saw it. I did what you asked. You complied with the instruction," Collins said. "But your conduct is unacceptable. You are deplaning." "I am not deplaning," she snapped, grabbing the armrests as if anchoring herself to the seat. "I paid for this ticket. I have rights." Behind her, someone whispered, "Oh my God." Another voice, quieter. "She's done." Melissa heard none of it. Or she heard all of it, and refused to let it in. "You can't throw me off because of him," she said, her voice cracking now, turning sharp and defensive. "This is discrimination." The word hung there, desperate, misplaced. Captain Collins didn't react. He had heard it before, in different tones, different situations, always the same outcome. "Ma'am," he said, "this is your final instruction. Unbuckle your seatbelt and gather your belongings." Melissa did the opposite. Her hands tightened on the armrests, her chin lifted, her eyes burned. "I'm not moving," she said. The cabin went completely still. No more whispers, no more movement, just the low hum of the aircraft systems and the weight of a decision already made. Daniel stepped back. One step, then another. Not retreating. Making space. He moved into the galley, leaning lightly against the partition, arms relaxed at his sides, watching. Always watching. Because he knew what came next. The door at the front of the aircraft opened again. Heavy. Deliberate. 2 Port Authority officers stepped on to the plane. Dark uniforms, calm faces, the kind of presence that didn't escalate, didn't negotiate, just ended things. One of them, taller, broader, approached first. "Ma'am," he said, voice steady, "you need to come with us." Melissa laughed again, but this time it broke halfway through. "No," she said. "No, this is insane. You're not taking me anywhere." The second officer moved closer. "You are refusing lawful instructions from the flight crew," he said. "You need to stand up." "I said no," she shouted, louder now, her voice cracking fully, losing any trace of control. "This is harassment. I didn't do anything wrong." Her hand shot out again, grabbing the seat in front of her. The officer didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He reached down, unbuckled her seatbelt. The click was louder than anything else in the cabin. For a split second, Melissa froze. Then she exploded, her legs kicked out, her body twisted. One heel struck the officer's shin with a sharp, hollow impact. A collective gasp tore through the cabin. The officer's expression didn't change, but his voice did. Flat. Final. "Ma'am," he said, "you are now under arrest." Everything accelerated. Hands moved faster. Grip tightened. The struggle lasted seconds but felt longer, stretched by adrenaline and disbelief. Melissa screamed. Not words at first, just sound. Then words came, jagged, uncontrolled. "You'll regret this," she shouted. "All of you, I'm calling my lawyer. I'm calling." Her voice broke again as the cuffs clicked around her wrists. Metal on skin, permanent. They pulled her to her feet. Her hair was no longer perfect. Her jacket twisted. The image she had curated so carefully unraveling in real time. As they guided her down the aisle, she turned her head. her eyes locked onto Daniel. For a second, everything else disappeared. The cabin, the officers, the phones recording. Just the two of them. "You," she said, her voice raw, stripped of polish. "This is on you." Daniel didn't move, didn't speak. His face remained still, unreadable. Because this wasn't about him anymore. It hadn't been for a while. The officers moved her forward, step by step. Her heels no longer clicked with confidence. They scraped, dragged, uneven. People pulled their legs in as she passed. No one met her eyes. Not anymore. By the time she reached the door, the silence broke. Applause. Soft at first, then louder. Not celebration. Release. Captain Collins turned back toward the cabin, picking up the PA handset. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady again, professional, controlled, "we apologize for the delay. We'll have this situation resolved shortly. Thank you for your patience." Daniel exhaled slowly. For the first time since he stepped onto the plane, he moved forward again. Back to seat 1A. The bag was still there. On the floor. He bent down, picked it up carefully, holding it between his fingers like it was something fragile. Something that no longer carried the weight it had a few minutes ago. He turned and handed it to Mark. "I believe they'll need this," he said. Mark nodded, taking it with both hands, his expression still shaken. "Of course, sir." "Thank you." Daniel sat down. Finally. Seat 1A. He adjusted his jacket once, settled back, and closed his eyes for a brief moment. It was over. That's what everyone thought. That the disruption had ended. That order had been restored. But outside the window, on the tarmac, ground crew were already moving faster than usual. Inside the cockpit, phones were ringing. And somewhere far beyond this aircraft, in systems and contracts and decisions no one in this cabin could see, the real consequences were just beginning. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The cabin lights stayed dim. The engines stayed silent. The aircraft didn't move. At first, no one noticed. Passengers adjusted their seats, fastened their belts again, replayed the moment in their heads like a scene from a movie they hadn't expected to be part of. But slowly, something felt wrong. Too still. Too quiet. Daniel opened his eyes. He didn't look around immediately. He listened first. No engine spool, no pushback, no movement from the jet bridge, just the low mechanical hum of a plane that wasn't going anywhere. His gaze shifted toward the window. On the tarmac, ground crew were moving, fast, faster than normal. 2 men in reflective vests jogged past the wing. Another waved his arms, signaling something off camera. A vehicle pulled up, then stopped abruptly. Not routine, not controlled, urgent. Daniel leaned back slightly, his fingers resting on the armrest, tapping once. Slow, deliberate. He had seen operations under pressure before. This was not a minor delay. Behind him, a voice broke the quiet. "What's taking so long?" Another answered, sharper, impatient. "We should have pushed back by now." A flight attendant walked past quickly, avoiding eye contact. Then another. Their smiles were gone, replaced by something tighter, something forced. Mark appeared again near the front, speaking in low tones into his headset. His back was straight, but his shoulders were tense. Daniel watched him for a moment, then looked away, because he already knew. Not the details, but the pattern, cause, effect, consequence. The intercom clicked, a soft burst of static. Then, "Ladies and gentlemen," Captain Collins' voice. But something was off. Not the tone, the weight. "I'm afraid I have some news regarding our departure." A pause. Not long, but long enough. Due to a security protocol triggered during the removal of a passenger, combined with the delay, our flight crew has now exceeded the legally permitted duty hours. A ripple moved through the cabin. Confusion first, then realization, then anger. "We are required by federal regulations to cancel this flight." Silence. Then no. A woman's voice, sharp, disbelieving. "You've got to be kidding me," a man added, louder. The captain continued, steady, but there was strain underneath now. "All passengers will need to deplane and return to the terminal for rebooking. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience." The line went dead. The cabin didn't stay quiet. It exploded. Voices overlapped. Questions turned into accusations. "Cancelled? Because of that woman? I have a connection in London. This is ridiculous!" A man stood up in row 3, throwing his hands into the air. "I've got a meeting in the morning. Who's paying for this?" A flight attendant stepped forward, trying to calm him, her voice soft but drowned out. Daniel didn't move, didn't react. He sat there, still in seat 1A, looking straight ahead, because for him, the words had landed differently. Not surprise, calculation. He checked his watch, then closed his eyes for a second. A meeting in London. 9 hours. Worth more than most people in this cabin would ever say out loud. Gone. Not delayed. Gone. He stood, not abruptly, not angrily, just stood. Reached up, took his briefcase from the overhead bin, the same precise movements he had used when he boarded. Controlled, measured, unchanged. Because losing control now wouldn't change anything. Behind him, the crowd shifted. Bodies stood. Overhead bins opened with sharp clicks. The sound of frustration filled the space. Then, "Hey!" A voice. Close. Daniel turned slightly. A man from business class had pushed forward, his face tight, his jaw clenched. "You happy?" the man said, pointing a finger toward Daniel's chest. "You got your seat." Daniel frowned slightly. "Excuse me?" "If you had just sat in the back," the man continued, louder now, drawing attention, "none of this would have happened." The words landed fast, heavy, unfair, but effective. Heads turned, eyes shifted. The narrative changing. "She was crazy," someone muttered. "Yeah," another voice added, but he didn't have to push it. Daniel felt it. The shift, subtle, but real. The sympathy was gone, replaced by something easier. Blame. "You could have just been the bigger man," a woman said from behind. "Ego," someone whispered. "Power trip," another added. Daniel stood there, surrounded now not by tension, But by judgment, he didn't argue, didn't defend himself, because he understood something most of them didn't. People don't want truth, they want resolution, and when the real cause disappears, they replace it. He became that replacement. The man stepped closer. "You stranded 300 people," he said, quieter now, but sharper. "Hope that seat was worth it." Daniel looked at him, really looked at him, then spoke, soft, controlled. "I didn't cancel the flight." The man scoffed. "Yeah, well, you didn't help either." Daniel held his gaze for one more second, then stepped past him. No anger, no reaction, just movement. Forward. Out of the cabin. Because this conversation was beneath the level where real decisions were made. The jet bridge was cooler, quieter, but the energy followed. Behind him, voices spilled out of the aircraft, louder now, more chaotic. Ahead, the terminal was already filling. 300 passengers, frustrated, delayed, looking for answers, looking for someone to blame. Daniel walked through them, not pushing, not rushing, just moving. Eyes followed him, some angry, some curious, some still recording, but none of them understood. Not yet, because while they were focused on the problem in front of them, Daniel was already moving toward the solution. He stepped into the terminal. Noise hit him instantly. Announcements, complaints, phones ringing. The customer service desk was already overwhelmed. A line forming. Voices rising. And near the center of it, Melissa Carter. No cuffs now. No officers. Just disheveled. Hair slightly out of place. Jacket wrinkled. But her voice, still loud. "I told you this would happen," she was shouting, gesturing wildly at a cluster of passengers. "If they had just treated me with respect, none of this would have happened." Her version, already forming, already spreading. "That man provoked me," she continued, pointing back toward the jet bridge. "He assaulted me. He escalated everything." A few people nodded, not because they believed her, because they needed something to hold on to. A story, a cause, a villain. Daniel saw her. She saw him. Her finger snapped toward him instantly. "There!" she shouted. "That's him. The man who ruined your trip." The crowd shifted, energy turning, focusing. For a moment, it looked like it might turn into something more. But Daniel didn't stop, didn't engage, didn't even acknowledge her. He walked past, through the noise, through the blame, through the chaos, until he reached a quiet corner near the window, away from them, away from her, away from the story they were building. He pulled out his phone, looked at the screen for a second, then dialed. The line rang once, twice, then connected. "This is Daniel," he said. His voice was different now. Lower, sharper, controlled in a way that didn't invite interruption. "I need to speak to the CEO." A pause. Then now. The line didn't stay quiet for long. "Daniel?" A voice came through, tight, alert, already sensing something was wrong. "This is Richard Hayes. I just got a report from operations. Flight 882 is down. Tell me this isn't what I think it is." Daniel didn't answer immediately. He watched Melissa from across the terminal. She was still talking, still performing. Her hands moved fast, sharp, cutting through the air as she built her version of events for anyone willing to listen. A few passengers leaned in. Others recorded. Most just wanted someone to blame. "It's worse," Daniel said finally, his voice even. "The flight is cancelled. 300 passengers are stranded. And it started with a bag in seat 1A. There was a pause on the other end. Not confusion. Processing. "How?" Richard asked. Daniel turned slightly, shifting his weight, eyes still locked on Melissa. She blocked my seat, refused to move it, escalated. Crew intervention, law enforcement, delay. Duty time expired. He said it like a report, clean, efficient, irrefutable. Richard exhaled slowly. "Jesus. I'm sorry, Daniel. I'll get a private jet ready at Teterboro. You'll be wheels up in 2 hours." "No," Daniel said. Flat. Immediate. Richard paused. "No, I'm not leaving," Daniel said. "Not yet." Across the terminal, Melissa had moved closer to the service desk now. Her voice rose again, sharper, cutting through the noise. "I want compensation," she snapped at the agent behind the counter. "First class on the next flight. And vouchers. This is emotional distress." The agent, young, maybe mid-20s, looked overwhelmed. Her smile was brittle, her hands hovering over the keyboard like she wasn't sure what to do next. Daniel watched her for a second, then looked away. "I want to fix this," he continued. "For everyone." Richard didn't respond right away, because he understood. Not the surface, the structure underneath. "All right," he said slowly. "Tell me what you need." Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. "First," he said, "I need you to authorize emergency recovery for the crew, override duty limits, offer triple pay. Get them to agree to fly." "That's not standard," Richard replied. But there was no resistance in his voice. "It doesn't need to be standard," Daniel said. "It needs to work. A beat." Then, "Done," Richard said. "I'll push it through ops right now." Daniel nodded once, even though Richard couldn't see it or could see it. "Second," he said, his gaze drifting back to Melissa, who was now leaning over the counter, her phone inches from the agent's face, recording. "I need you to send an email." "To who?" "Robert Carter." Richard went quiet again. "Halston Energy?" he asked. "Yes." "What about him?" Daniel's voice dropped slightly. "Colder. CC me, and send it from your office." Another pause. Longer this time, because now Richard was catching up. "Daniel," he said slowly. "Why does his name matter?" Daniel shifted his stance, one hand sliding into his pocket. "Because his wife is the one who caused this." Silence. "Then wait," Richard said, his voice tightening. "Carter. Carter. Melissa Carter?" Daniel didn't answer. Didn't need to. Richard exhaled sharply. "You're kidding me." "I'm not." Another pause. Then the realization landed fully. Vertex, Richard said under his breath. Daniel's eyes didn't leave Melissa. Say it, he replied. You acquired the parent company last week, Richard said. Faster now, the pieces snapping into place. Holston reports up through them. Yes. And Carter reports into... Daniel finished it. Into someone who now reports into me. The silence that followed wasn't confusion. It was weight. Daniel, Richard said, lower now. Careful. What are you going to do? Daniel watched Melissa push the agent's keyboard aside with one hand, her frustration boiling over. I'm going to correct the chain, he said. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just final. I want the email to state that due to conduct by a direct family member, Holston Energy's partnership is under immediate review. Richard let out a slow breath. That'll hit hard. It should. And Carter? Daniel's expression didn't change. I want him notified that his position is under evaluation pending internal investigation. Richard didn't hesitate this time. Consider it done. Daniel nodded once. And Richard, he added. Yeah, ban Melissa Carter from the airline. A beat. Lifetime. Richard almost laughed, not because it was funny. Because it was absolute. Done, he said. Daniel ended the call. The noise of the terminal rushed back in around him. Voices, announcements, frustration. But something had shifted. Not in the crowd, not yet. In the system. Invisible. But already moving. He straightened his jacket, adjusted his tie once, then walked. Back toward the center. Back toward the chaos. Back toward her. Melissa was still talking when he stepped up beside her. She didn't notice at first, too focused on the performance. I am not leaving this airport without compensation, she said into her phone, her voice sharp, shaking now with adrenaline. I've been humiliated. I've been assaulted. I want this documented. The agent behind the counter looked like she might cry. Her hands trembled slightly as she tried to type. Daniel stopped beside Melissa. Close enough. Still quiet. Then actually, he said. Just one word. But it cut through everything. Melissa froze. Her head turned slowly. Her eyes landed on him, and for the first time since this began, there was no certainty in them. Only something else. Unfamiliar. Unstable. You, she said. Not loud. Not confident. Just recognition. Daniel met her gaze. Calm. Controlled. I think you're about to get exactly what you asked for, he said. Her expression hardened immediately, snapping back into place like a mask. Oh, I will, she replied, lifting her phone slightly. I'm calling my husband right now. Daniel nodded once. Please do. There was something in his tone. Not challenge, not sarcasm. Permission. And that was what made her hesitate, just for a fraction of a second. Then she dialed, put it on speaker, because of course she did. The phone rang once, twice, then, Melissa? A man's voice, tired, sharp, stressed. Robert, she said immediately, her voice shifting again. Softer now, controlled, building her version. I've been assaulted, I've been thrown off a flight. The airline cancelled everything because of some... Stop! The word hit like a slap. Melissa blinked. What? I said. Stop talking, Robert said, louder now, panic bleeding into his voice. Are you at JFK? Yes, and are you bothering a man named Daniel Reed? The question cut through everything. Melissa's eyes flicked to Daniel. He didn't move, didn't react, just watched. How do you, she started. Answer me, Robert snapped. Yes, she said, slower now. Silence. Then, Melissa, Robert said, his voice dropping, cracking under pressure. Do you have any idea what you've done? The terminal noise faded. Not literally, but for her. Everything narrowed, focused. What are you talking about? She whispered. Daniel Reed, Robert said, each word sharper than the last, is the CEO of the company that just acquired ours. Melissa's face drained, color gone, expression collapsing. He's what? He's my boss's boss's boss, Robert said. And I just got an email from the airline CEO. Our contract is under review. My job is under review. You've put everything at risk. Melissa didn't speak. Couldn't. Because for the first time, the story she had built wasn't holding. It was breaking. The silence around her wasn't quiet. It was watching. Melissa stood frozen, phone still in her hand, the speaker still on, Robert's breathing loud enough for the people closest to hear. You need to listen to me very carefully, he said, his voice no longer sharp, no longer angry, just terrified. That man can end this, right now. Contracts, partnerships, everything. Melissa swallowed. Her throat felt tight, dry. She looked at Daniel again, but this time she didn't see a stranger. She saw something else. Power. Not the loud kind she understood. The quiet kind. The kind that didn't announce itself. The kind that didn't need to. I didn't know, she said, the words barely forming. You didn't ask, Robert snapped. You never ask. A few people nearby shifted closer. Not obviously, just enough. Because the story was changing. And they felt it. Melissa's hand trembled slightly as she held the phone. We'll fix it, she said, her voice rising again, trying to rebuild control. Tell them it's a misunderstanding. Tell them I can't fix this, Robert cut in. You created it. The words landed harder than anything else, not because of what they meant, because of how final they sounded. Melissa blinked rapidly, her mind scrambling, looking for a way out, looking for leverage, looking for something familiar. There are lawyers, she said quickly. We can sue. This is wrongful. Stop, Robert said again, quieter now, but heavier. You need to leave that airport, right now. Do not say another word to anyone. Do not argue. Do not escalate. She shook her head. Instinct. Rejection. I'm not leaving, she said. I did nothing wrong. That wasn't defiance anymore. That was denial. Robert didn't argue, didn't try to convince her, because he knew. Then you're on your own, he said. And the line went dead. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of eyes, full of realization, full of something shifting again. Melissa lowered the phone slowly. Her fingers felt numb, her chest tight. She looked at Daniel. really looked at him this time. No filter, no assumptions, just truth. And what she saw terrified her. Around them, the crowd had changed, not completely, not all at once, but enough. The man who had accused Daniel earlier stood a little farther back now, arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. The woman who had whispered ego shifted her weight, her expression uncertain. Phones were still up, but now they weren't just recording conflict. They were capturing consequence. "Is that real?" someone whispered. "Did she just—" Another voice trailed off. Melissa heard them. Every word, every shift. And for the first time, she wasn't controlling the narrative. She was losing it. "No," she said suddenly, louder now, her voice sharp again, trying to push back against the wave. "This is being twisted. He's manipulating this." She pointed at Daniel again, but the gesture felt weaker, less certain. "He's using his money," she continued, her voice rising, faster now, his connections. "That's what this is. Power abuse." The words didn't land the way she expected. They didn't catch. They didn't spread, because something else had already taken root. Truth, or at least a clearer version of it. Daniel didn't interrupt her, didn't defend himself. He let her speak, because he understood something she didn't. When someone loses control, they reveal everything. Melissa turned toward the crowd. "You all saw what happened," she said, searching for allies. "He threatened me. He escalated everything." A few people looked at each other, then back at her. But no one stepped forward. No one confirmed it. No one supported her. The absence said more than words. Her voice faltered, just for a second, but it was enough. Daniel stepped forward, one step, measured, calm. He didn't raise his voice, didn't change his tone, but the entire space seemed to adjust around him. "Melissa," he said, her name. Not Mrs. Carter, not Mom. Just Melissa. It landed differently, personal, precise. She stiffened. "You wanted to know who I was," he continued. The words were soft, but they carried. "I'm the person who decides whether your husband's company keeps its contracts." A ripple moved through the crowd, not loud, but sharp. Melissa's breath caught. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. "You decided I didn't belong in that seat," Daniel said, his eyes steady, unwavering. "You decided I should move, that I should accept it." Each sentence landed slower than the last. He wasn't rushing. He didn't need to. "You were wrong," not shouted, not emphasized, just stated. And somehow, that made it heavier. Melissa shook her head. A reflex, a rejection. "You can't do this," she said, but her voice had lost its edge. "You can't just destroy someone's life over a misunderstanding." Daniel's expression didn't change. "This didn't start as a misunderstanding," he said. "It became one when you refused to see it any other way." The words settled, deep. Around them, the terminal noise continued. Announcements, rolling luggage, distant voices. But in that small circle, everything felt still. Melissa's shoulders dropped slightly. The fight was still there. But it was fading, replaced by something else, something heavier. "What do you want?" she asked. The question came out quieter, almost small. Daniel considered her for a moment, not judging, not hesitating, just observing. Then he answered. "I already have what I want," he said. She frowned, confused. "What?" "My seat," he replied. A pause. Then, "And now," he added, "everyone else gets theirs, too." Melissa blinked, not understanding, because she was still thinking small, still thinking about the seat, the moment, the argument. She wasn't seeing the scale. Not yet. Behind them, the gate agent suddenly straightened. Her screen lit up with a new message. Her eyes widened. She looked at Daniel, then back at the screen, then grabbed the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her voice shaking slightly, but stronger than before, "we have an update regarding Flight 882. The crowd turned. Instantly, attention shifting, hope, frustration, expectation. The agent took a breath. "Thanks to an emergency authorization from headquarters," she continued, "the crew has agreed to operate the flight under special clearance. Boarding will resume in 30 minutes. For a second, no one reacted. Then sound, relief, disbelief, applause, real, loud. Not for the airline, not for the system, for him. Heads turned toward Daniel. Hands clapped. Voices called out. "Thank you. Appreciate it, man." The man from earlier stepped forward, his expression completely different now. I didn't know," he said, awkward, embarrassed. "I'm sorry." Daniel nodded once. "It's fine," he said, because it was. To him. The situation had already moved past this moment, past the apology, past the crowd. Melissa stood there, alone, in the middle of it all. The applause didn't include her. The relief didn't belong to her. The narrative had shifted. Completely. And for the first time since this began, she had no place in it. Her hand tightened around her phone. Her chest rose and fell faster now. She looked at Daniel again. Not with anger, not with arrogance, with something else. Fear. Real. Unfiltered. Because she understood now. This wasn't about a seat. It was never about a seat. It was about what happens when you mistake silence for weakness and control for power. And by the time you realize the difference, it's already too late. The applause didn't last. It never does. Relief fades fast when people remember what almost happened. The crowd shifted back into motion, lines forming again, voices lowering into tired conversations about delays, missed connections, rescheduled plans. The system had corrected itself, but the memory of disruption still clung to the air like smoke. Melissa stood in the center of it, untouched by the movement around her. Not physically, but socially. People gave her space without meaning to. A step wider, a glance longer, conversations that paused when she got too close. She felt it, even if she couldn't fully process it. Daniel had already stepped away. He didn't linger for thanks, didn't absorb the attention, didn't stay in the center of the moment he had just controlled. He moved back toward the window. Same quiet corner, same stillness. Because for him, this wasn't an ending. It was a transition. His phone buzzed once, then again. Then again. Messages stacking, notifications pushing through one after another. He didn't check them immediately. He didn't need to. He already knew what was happening. Across the terminal, a teenager held up his phone, replaying something to his friend. "Look at this," he said. "That's her." The friend leaned in. "Wait, that's the lady from the plane?" "Yeah. Someone already posted it." Melissa heard the word posted. It cut through everything. Her head turned sharply. "What?" she said, stepping closer, her voice tight. The teenager hesitated, then turned the screen slightly. She saw it. Herself. Mid-sentence. Finger pointed. Voice raised. The moment captured from 3 different angles, stitched together into something cleaner, sharper, undeniable. The caption sat beneath it. Simple. Cold. CEO of entitlement meets real power. Her stomach dropped. "No," she whispered. She reached out instinctively, as if she could pull the image back into the phone and erase it. But it was already gone, already moving, already spreading. "How many views?" the friend asked. The teenager refreshed the screen. "Thousands," he said. "No. Wait. It's climbing." Melissa stepped back. Her breathing changed. Shallow. Fast. This wasn't part of the plan. There was no plan for this. She looked around. Different eyes now. Not confused. Not curious. Recognizing. Connecting. Judging. A woman nearby lowered her phone slowly, her expression shifting from neutral to something sharper. "That's her," she said quietly to the man beside her. The man nodded. "Yeah, that's her." The word spread faster than any announcement, not loud, but everywhere. Melissa felt it, like pressure closing in. Her hand moved to her hair, smoothing it instinctively, trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. She looked for Daniel. He was still by the window, still calm, still separate from all of it, as if none of this touched him. That made it worse, because it showed her something she hadn't understood before. He didn't need the crowd. He didn't need the validation. He didn't need to win in front of anyone. He had already won somewhere else. Somewhere she couldn't reach. Her phone buzzed. She looked down. Unknown numbers, voicemails, messages. Her chest tightened. She didn't open them, didn't want to, because she already knew. The story was out, and she wasn't controlling it. Not anymore. Back at the service desk, the agent straightened again, reading from her screen, her voice steadier now. "Boarding for flight 882 will resume in approximately 25 minutes. Please remain near the gate." The announcement gave people something to focus on. A next step, a way forward. They moved towards it, lines forming again, order returning. But not for Melissa. She stayed where she was, frozen between 2 realities, the one she had walked into and the one she was now trapped in. A man passed her, brushing her shoulder lightly, not aggressively, not intentionally. But he didn't apologize, didn't look back, didn't even register her. The absence hit harder than any insult. She turned slightly, watching him go, waiting for something. Nothing came. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking, not visibly, but enough. enough to feel it. Across the terminal, Daniel's phone buzzed again. He finally picked it up. Scrolled once, twice, then stopped. A video thumbnail filled the screen. He watched it without sound. He didn't need it. He remembered every second. The camera angles, the timing, the moment it shifted, the moment it broke. He closed the video, put the phone back in his pocket. Because this wasn't about the video. It was about what followed. He turned his head slightly, looked back at Melissa. Just for a moment. Not with anger. Not with satisfaction. With something quieter. Final. Then he looked away. The distance between them wasn't physical anymore. It was structural. Permanent. Melissa felt that look. Even without seeing it. She turned again. This time she moved. Slow. Uncertain. Toward the exit, not running, not yet, but moving away from the center, away from the eyes, away from the weight. Her heels clicked against the floor, uneven now, out of rhythm. The sound followed her. Until it didn't, because no one was listening anymore. Not to her. Not for her. The crowd had shifted. The story had moved on, and she was no longer part of it. Behind her, boarding preparations resumed, voices steadied, systems aligned. The machine corrected itself, as it always does, but some things don't reset. Some moments don't disappear. They stay. They echo. They follow. And for Melissa Carter, this was only the beginning of that echo. 4 hours into the flight, the cabin had gone quiet. Not peaceful. Exhausted. The kind of quiet that settles after too much noise, too much tension, too many people pretending everything is back to normal when it isn't. The lights were dimmed to a soft twilight blue. The engines hummed steady now, a deep mechanical rhythm carrying the aircraft across the dark Atlantic. Most passengers were asleep, bodies folded into seats, faces turned toward windows or buried into pillows. Daniel Reed wasn't. He sat upright in seat 1A, a cup of black coffee resting untouched on the tray table in front of him. The window beside him was a mirror of darkness, broken only by faint reflections of cabin lights and his own silhouette. His eyes weren't tired. They were focused, because somewhere below that blanket of clouds, the real story had begun. His phone lay face down beside the cup. Silent, but not still. He knew it without looking. Messages stacking. Calls missed. Decisions moving. The kind that didn't wait for landing. Mark Lewis moved quietly down the aisle, his steps careful, respectful of the sleeping cabin. He paused when he saw Daniel awake, then lowered himself slightly near the aisle. "Mr. Reed," he said softly, almost a whisper. "Can I get you anything?" Daniel shook his head once. "I'm fine." Mark hesitated. Not out of protocol. Out of something else. Gratitude, relief. "We appreciate what you did back there," he said quietly. For the crew, the authorization, it made a difference. Daniel looked at him briefly. Not dismissive, not warm, just acknowledging. "You did your job," Daniel said. "That's what mattered." Mark nodded, but he didn't move right away. "She thought her status protected her," he said after a moment, his voice low. "We see it a lot. People like that. But not like her." Daniel's gaze shifted back to the window. "She confused visibility with power," he said. Mark frowned slightly, processing it, then nodded again. "Do you think she'll face consequences?" he asked. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He picked up the coffee, took a slow sip, set it back down. "The world is different now," he said. "There are cameras everywhere, and people don't forget what they can replay." Mark exhaled softly, then stood. "I'll be nearby if you need anything," he said. Daniel gave a small nod. Mark walked away. The aisle swallowed him. The quiet returned, but it didn't stay untouched for long. A faint glow flickered from the row behind. Then another. Then another. Screens lighting up. Notifications. Movement spreading in silence. A woman in row 2 shifted, pulling her phone closer, her brow tightening as she read something. The man beside her leaned in. "What is it?" he whispered. She didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved faster across the screen. Then she turned it toward him. "That's from earlier," she said. He leaned closer. Recognition hit immediately. "That's her," he said. Another passenger across the aisle noticed, then another. Phones appeared again, quietly, discreetly, but everywhere. Daniel didn't turn. He didn't need to. He felt it, the shift, the attention, the ripple moving backward through the cabin. Behind him, a young voice whispered, barely contained, "It's everywhere." Another voice responded, sharper. "How many views?" "Millions," the first said. "Already." A pause. Then, no way, Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. Not to rest, to center, because this was the part most people misunderstood. The moment when something small, a single interaction, becomes something else entirely. Scale. Exposure. Irreversible. He opened his eyes again, reached for his phone, turned it over. The screen lit instantly. Notifications stacked in layers. Messages from executives, from legal, from PR, from people who didn't call unless something mattered. He opened one, a video link, no caption needed. He pressed play. The footage was clean, multi-angle, edited, precise. Melissa's voice, her gestures, the escalation, the moment she threw the bag, the moment the officers arrived, the moment everything broke. It ended on him, standing still, watching. The contrast was clear, not exaggerated, not manipulated, just visible. Daniel stopped the video, locked the screen, placed the phone back on the table, because the content didn't matter anymore. The reaction did. Across the cabin, whispers had turned into quiet conversations. "She kicked a cop? That's what it says. She's done. Completely." A man near the aisle shook his head slowly. "People like that think nothing applies to them," he muttered. Another voice added, softer, "Not anymore." The tone had changed. Not sympathy. Not anger. Something colder. Judgment. Collective. Final. Daniel leaned back slightly in his seat. The aircraft moved steadily through the night, uninterrupted, unaware. But below, systems were reacting. Companies were responding. Contracts were shifting, and one woman, one moment, had triggered all of it. He looked out the window again. The darkness hadn't changed, but the world beneath it had. His phone buzzed once more. He picked it up this time. A call. Selina Grant, head of communications, he answered. Daniel, she said immediately. No greeting, no delay. You need to be aware of what's happening. I am, he replied. No, she said. Not all of it. He waited. The video is past 40 million views, she continued. National coverage, international pickup. She's trending above major political stories right now. Daniel didn't react. Expected, he said. Selina paused. She's already responding, she added. That made him still. How? He asked. She's claiming you provoked her, Selina said. Saying the video is edited. That you used your influence to have her removed. Daniel's eyes narrowed slightly. She's escalating, he said. Yes. A beat. And she's filed intent to sue, Selina continued. $50 million. Defamation, emotional distress, abuse of power. The words landed, not heavy, just noted. Daniel looked down at the reflection of the cabin lights in his coffee. She wants control of the narrative, he said. She's losing it, Selina replied. Daniel leaned back. His posture didn't change, but something else did. Subtle, internal, strategic. Then we take it completely, he said. Selina didn't respond immediately, because she understood exactly what that meant. Legal is ready, she said finally. Good. Daniel looked out the window again. The horizon was beginning to shift, barely. A faint line of light forming where darkness had been absolute. Get me the full airport footage, he said. Every angle, every second. And notify Richard, I want legal coordination with the airline. You're going to counter? Selina asked. Daniel's voice dropped slightly. Colder. Precise. She thinks this is a public argument, he said. It's not. A pause. Then, it's an audit. Selina exhaled slowly. Understood. The call ended. Daniel set the phone down. The first hint of sunrise touched the edge of the clouds. Soft, distant, inevitable. And somewhere far below, the consequences she had started were no longer forming. They were moving toward her, with precision, with speed, and with no intention of stopping. The sun was already up when the plane touched down in London. Grey light washed over the runway, cold and flat, turning the aircraft's shadow into a long, stretched silhouette that slid beneath it as the wheels hit the ground. The cabin stirred slowly. Seatbelts clicked. Overhead bins shifted. Voices returned in low, tired murmurs. Daniel Reed didn't rush. He stayed seated for a moment after the aircraft came to a stop, his gaze fixed on the window, watching the ground crew move with quiet efficiency outside. Nothing dramatic. Nothing chaotic. Just order. He stood when the aisle cleared, took his briefcase, adjusted his jacket once, the same controlled movements, unchanged. Because nothing about him had changed, only everything around him had. Mark stood by the door as passengers exited, his posture straight despite the long night. When Daniel approached, Mark gave a small nod, something between respect and relief. "Safe travels, Mr. Reed," he said quietly. Daniel paused for half a second. "You too," he replied. Then he stepped off the plane. The jet bridge felt colder, sharper. The air carried a different weight, not just because of the country, but because of what was waiting on the other side. He walked into Terminal 3, and the world hit him. Flashes, voices, movement. "Mr. Reed! Daniel, over here! Is it true you had her removed? Did you use your influence to shut down the flight?" Cameras surged forward. Microphones followed. The space tightened instantly, a wall of attention pressing inward. Daniel didn't stop, didn't answer, didn't acknowledge. His security detail stepped in from both sides, large men in dark suits, moving with practiced precision, creating a path through the chaos. "Make way, please," one of them said, firm but controlled. The noise followed. Questions stacking over each other, louder now, more aggressive. "Are you being sued for $50 million? Did you threaten her husband's company? Was this retaliation?" Daniel kept walking, expression unchanged, eyes forward, because this wasn't the arena where outcomes were decided. He reached the waiting black Mercedes outside. The door opened. He got in. The door shut. And just like that, silence. The city outside moved, traffic flowed. London carried on, unaware or unconcerned. Inside the car, the world narrowed again. Focused. Controlled. His phone rang before the car even pulled away. "Selena," he answered. "She's on air," Selena said immediately. "Live. National broadcast." Daniel leaned back slightly. "Where?" "New York," she said. "Morning show. She's doubling down." Of course she was. He closed his eyes for a second. "Put it on," he said. A screen lit up in front of him. Melissa Carter, framed perfectly. Soft lighting, carefully chosen angle. Her hair fixed, makeup precise, every detail controlled, every imperfection hidden. Except her eyes. They moved too fast, tracked too much, searched for something that wasn't there. "Miss Carter," the host said, her tone measured, skeptical beneath the surface. "You're at the center of a viral incident involving a cancelled international flight. You're claiming the footage is misleading?" Melissa nodded immediately. "Yes," she said, her voice softer now, crafted, emotional but contained. "What people don't see is what happened before the cameras started rolling." Daniel watched. "Still." "She threatened me," Melissa continued. "From the moment he boarded, he was aggressive. He made comments about my appearance, about my presence. I felt unsafe. The words were clean, prepared, delivered with precision." The host didn't interrupt. Not yet. "I was protecting myself," Melissa added, her voice trembling slightly at the edges, just enough to feel real. And then suddenly, I'm the one being removed. It didn't make sense. Daniel's gaze didn't shift. He didn't react. Because this was expected. The narrative, the reconstruction, the attempt to reclaim control. "But the airline states," the host said, cutting in now, her tone sharpening, That you refused multiple crew instructions and physically assaulted a police officer. They also mentioned body camera footage. Melissa froze. Just for a fraction of a second. Enough. That footage is being taken out of context, she said quickly. They were rough with me. I reacted. Anyone would have. The host tilted her head slightly. And the allegation that you used discriminatory language. Melissa's composure cracked. Not fully. But enough. That is completely false, she said, louder now. This is a smear campaign. He's a billionaire. He can control the narrative. He can pay people to say whatever he wants. Daniel's jaw tightened slightly. Barely. The host leaned forward. Miss Carter, are you saying Mr. Reed fabricated this entire situation? Melissa hesitated. Then, yes. The word landed, heavy, definitive, and wrong. Daniel reached forward, tapped the screen once. The broadcast cut. Silence returned. The car moved through the city. Uninterrupted, unconcerned. Selena's voice came back through the phone. She's escalating fast, she said. Her lawyer filed preliminary documents. They're pushing hard for settlement before more footage surfaces. Daniel looked out the window. Buildings passed in clean lines. Predictable. Ordered. Not happening, he said. We have everything we need, Selena continued. Airport cameras, cabin audio, witness statements. It's all consistent. Daniel nodded once. Release it, he said. A pause. Everything? Selena asked. Daniel's voice dropped. Cold, precise. Everything. Selena didn't argue, because she understood what that meant. Public, permanent, irreversible. She won't recover from that, she said quietly. Daniel's eyes stayed on the city. She already made that decision, he replied. The car slowed, turned, pulled into a private entrance. His building, glass and steel, clean lines, no noise. The door opened. Daniel stepped out. No cameras, no shouting, just space. Control. He walked inside. The elevator doors closed behind him. The reflection stared back. Same suit, same posture, same stillness. But something had shifted. Not in him, in the scale. Because this was no longer about a flight, or a seat, or a moment. It was about consequence, systemic, measured, total. The elevator stopped. The doors opened. A conference room waited. Screens already on. People already seated. Executives, legal teams, decision makers. Waiting. Not for explanation, for instruction. Daniel walked in. Didn't sit immediately. Didn't greet. He moved to the head of the table, placed his briefcase down, looked at the screen. Melissa's interview frozen mid-frame, her mouth open, mid-sentence, mid-defense, mid-collapse. As you can see, Daniel said, his voice cutting through the room. Controlled, absolute, we have a liability issue. The room went still. Not confused, not uncertain. Focused. Because they understood what that meant. Not a problem. An exposure and exposure, once revealed, demands correction. Daniel turned slightly, met their eyes, one by one. "Let's begin," he said. And just like that, the final phase started. The room didn't breathe. It listened. Screens glowed across the glass wall, each one holding a different angle of the same truth. Airport security feeds, cabin footage, time stamps aligned down to the second, no gaps, no ambiguity, just sequence. Daniel stood at the head of the table, hands resting lightly on the chair in front of him. He didn't sit. He didn't need to. "Play it," he said. The first clip rolled. Melissa's voice, sharp and certain. The bag placed across seat 1A. The refusal, the escalation, the moment the cabin turned. No music, no edits, just reality. A murmur moved through the executives. Not surprise, recognition. "Continue," Daniel said. The second clip, law enforcement stepping in. The seatbelt click, the kick, the words that followed, the cuffs. The third clip, terminal footage. Melissa leaning over the counter, phone inches from the agent's face. Demanding, recording, rewriting. The room went still again. Daniel let the silence settle. Then he spoke. "This is not a public relations issue," he said. "It's a systems failure with a visible trigger." He turned slightly toward the legal team. "What's our exposure?" A woman in her 40s, Catherine Ross, didn't look down at her notes. She didn't need to. "Airline damages from cancellation, approximately $500,000, she said. "Rebooking, crew time, fuel loss, ground operations." She paused. "Potential additional liability if the narrative turns against us." "It won't," Daniel said. Not confident. Certain. Catherine nodded once. "Then the focus shifts," she continued. "We counter. Tortious interference with business operations. Defamation. False claims made on public broadcast." Daniel looked at the screen again. Melissa's face frozen mid-sentence. "Controlled. Performing. Add intent," he said. She escalated after instruction. Repeatedly. Catherine nodded again, already adjusting the structure in her head. Across the table, Richard Hayes leaned forward slightly, fingers steepled. "Her husband," he said. "Robert Carter." Daniel's gaze shifted to him. "Status?" Richard glanced at his tablet. Administrative leave initiated. Internal audit triggered. Daniel didn't react. "Findings?" he asked. Richard exhaled once. "Preliminary review shows multiple expense irregularities. Personal luxury items charged to corporate accounts. Travel, gifts, the bag, the word landed. Quiet. Heavy." "The Birkin?" someone asked. Richard nodded. "Expensed under client relations." A low sound moved through the room. Not shock. Confirmation. Daniel turned fully now. "Then it's not just misconduct," he said. "It's fraud." Catherine's eyes sharpened. "That changes the posture," she said. "We move from defense to prosecution." Daniel didn't smile, didn't acknowledge. He just continued. "Public statement," he said. "Immediate. Termination for cause. Misappropriation of funds. Ethics violation." Richard nodded. Done. And his contract? Voidable under morality clause, Richard replied. Her actions triggered reputational damage tied directly to company association. Daniel's voice stayed even. Then void it. No hesitation. No discussion. Effective immediately. Richard typed something into his tablet. Consider it executed. Daniel shifted his attention back to the screen. Next, he said. Catherine leaned forward slightly. The civil suit, she said. We proceed? Daniel looked at her. File it. Amount? He didn't look away. 500,000 for direct airline damages, he said, plus additional claims for disruption and reputational impact. Catherine's expression didn't change, but her tone did. And personally? She asked. Daniel paused for half a second, not thinking, choosing. 12 million, he said. The number sat in the room. Heavy. Calculated. Basis? Catherine asked. Tortious interference, Daniel replied. She caused a contractual disruption through willful misconduct. Her actions triggered review clauses and financial risk across multiple entities. Catherine nodded slowly. That will hold, she said. Daniel walked toward the window. London stretched out below. Ordered. Unbothered. He spoke without turning. Attach a lien to all known assets, he said. Primary residence, secondary properties, liquid accounts. Catherine didn't hesitate. Understood. Richard glanced up. She won't be able to pay that, he said. Daniel's reflection stared back at him in the glass. I'm not asking her to, he replied. Silence. Then understanding. This wasn't about recovery. It was about consequence. Daniel turned back. Release the footage, he said. Selina, seated near the end of the table, looked up. All of it? She asked. All of it, Daniel repeated. The terminal footage, she clarified. The parts before boarding. The interaction with the gate agent. The police arrival. Yes. A pause. That will end her, Selina said. Daniel's expression didn't change. She ended herself, he replied. Selina nodded. Already drafting, already structuring, already preparing the rollout. Coordinated, precise. Across the table, one of the executives shifted slightly. This will set a precedent, he said. Daniel looked at him. That's the point. The man nodded. No argument. Because there wasn't one. Daniel moved back to the head of the table, placed both hands on the surface, leaned forward slightly. Timeline, he said. Catherine responded immediately. Filing within the hour. Public release coordinated within 2. Media cycle peaks within 6. Response window closes within 24. Daniel nodded. Good. His phone buzzed once. He picked it up. A message from Selina. Live metrics. The video. Now over 60 million views. Climbing. He set the phone down again. Then we move now, he said. The room shifted. Not physically. Operationally. People stood. Chairs moved. Screens changed. Calls initiated. Because the decision had been made. Not gradually. Not collaboratively. Directly. And somewhere, across an ocean, Melissa Carter's phone lit up again, and again, and again. Unknown numbers, news alerts, legal notices. Her inbox filled faster than she could process. Her name everywhere. Her version collapsing. Her reality closing in. Back in the conference room, Daniel watched the screen go dark as the footage upload completed. No ceremony, no pause, just execution. He adjusted his jacket once. "Keep me updated," he said. Then he turned, walked towards the door. No one stopped him. No one questioned, because the work didn't end here. It expanded. And as the door closed behind him, the system he had set in motion did exactly what it was designed to do. Correct. Completely. Without hesitation. Without mercy. 14 months later, no one turned when she walked in. The terminal at LaGuardia was loud, crowded, and indifferent. Plastic chairs bolted to the floor. Fluorescent lights that made everything look a little too honest. The smell of pretzels and burnt coffee hung in the air, familiar and cheap. Melissa Carter sat near gate C12, hunched over a worn duffel bag that sagged at the seams. The fabric was faded. The zipper didn't close cleanly anymore. One strap had been stitched back together with uneven thread. She held it close anyway, like it still meant something. Her hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail, streaks of grey visible at the roots. No salon finish. No perfect edges. Just function. Her jacket was plain, beige, the kind no one noticed twice. That was the point. No one noticed her. A man walked past, brushing her shoulder without looking back. A teenager dropped into the seat beside her, headphones on, volume leaking into the space. A woman across from her scrolled her phone, eyes moving without pause. Melissa sat in the middle of all of it, invisible. Her boarding pass rested in her hand. Group 4, seat 22B, middle. She stared at it for a long time, not because she didn't understand it, because she did. Every letter, every number, every implication. A year ago, she would have argued, demanded, corrected. There would have been a scene, a voice raised, a name dropped. Now there was nothing to say. Her phone buzzed once. She didn't reach for it right away. When she did, the screen lit up with a notification she didn't expect. A news alert. She hesitated, then tapped it. The headline filled the screen. Reed Global launches Respect in the Skies initiative. Her chest tightened. The article opened. There was a photo. Daniel Reed, standing on a stage, calm as ever, beside the CEO of the airline she had once believed she could control. Clean suit, straight posture, eyes steady, untouched, untouchable. The text scrolled beneath. A foundation. $5 million in funding. Legal support for airline staff, flight attendants, gate agents, baggage handlers, people like the one she had leaned over, the one she had spoken down to, the one she had recorded. Melissa's thumb hovered over the screen, then moved lower. The final paragraph. To kick off the initiative, a symbolic item was auctioned, a previously seized Hermès Birkin bag, acquired through liquidation proceedings. The image loaded slowly. Orange. Bright. Perfect. even now. Sold for $45,000. All proceeds donated. Melissa stared at it. Her bag, her symbol, her proof. Now a fundraiser, a joke, a lesson. Her throat tightened. She locked the phone, placed it face down on her lap. The gate agent's voice came through the speaker, flat and practiced. Now boarding Group 4. Melissa stood, slowly. Her knees felt stiff. Her shoulder ached as she lifted the duffel bag. The weight pulled unevenly against her body, forcing her to adjust her grip. She stepped into line. No priority lane. Boarding. Ignition. Just movement. Forward. One person at a time. The jet bridge felt narrower, lower, the air heavier. She walked down it without looking up. Didn't meet anyone's eyes. Didn't need to, because there was nothing left to prove. Inside the aircraft, the smell hit first, recycled air, fabric, time. A flight attendant stood at the door, offering the same polite smile she had seen 100 times before. "Welcome aboard," Melissa nodded once, quiet, small. She moved down the aisle, counting the rows without thinking. 18, 19, 20. Her seat, 22B, the middle. A man already sat by the window, his arm resting across the shared space, headphones in, eyes closed. On the aisle, a teenager scrolled through his phone, legs angled out, barely making room. Melissa paused. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was soft, almost unfamiliar. The teenager shifted his legs without looking up. She squeezed past. Carefully. Her bag bumped the seat. No one reacted. She lowered herself into the middle seat. The space was tight, her knees pressed against the seat in front of her. Her shoulders angled inward, contained. She pulled the duffel bag up, tried to push it under the seat. It didn't slide easily. She adjusted, pushed harder. The zipper caught. She forced it. The bag scraped against the floor. Stuck halfway. A voice beside her. Firm. Tired. "Ma'am, that bag needs to be fully under the seat. It's blocking the aisle." Melissa looked up. The flight attendant stood there. No anger. No judgment. Just instruction. The same instruction. The same moment. Different side. Melissa blinked once, then nodded. "Yes," she said. "Quiet. Immediate. I'm sorry." She pushed the bag again, harder this time, until it disappeared into the dark space beneath the seat. Gone. She sat back, hands folded in her lap, eyes forward. No argument, no resistance, just acceptance. The plane door closed. The engines began to hum. A low vibration building beneath her feet. The aircraft pushed back from the gate. Melissa closed her eyes. For a moment, just one. A tear slipped free. Silent. Unnoticed, it landed on the fabric of her jacket. Soaked in. Gone. The plane turned, lined up, accelerated, and lifted, leaving the ground behind, leaving everything behind, except the lesson. Because she had wanted a seat that wasn't hers, and in the process, she lost every seat that ever mattered. Daniel Reed stood months later on a stage, speaking to a room full of people who listened not because of his title, but because of what he represented. Control, discipline, respect. The kind that doesn't need to be announced. The kind that doesn't need a label. The kind that doesn't disappear when no one is watching. And somewhere, in a crowded terminal, in a middle seat, in a life rebuilt from what was left, Melissa Carter understood something she never had before. Real class isn't carried in a bag. It's carried in how you treat the person standing in front of you. If this story meant something to you, if you believe respect should never depend on status, take a second to like this video and subscribe for more stories like this. And drop 3 English words in the comments that describe what you think true class really is.